Cue and Review, celebrating 40 years of audio production, welcomes you to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports podcast, recorded from our studio in the Bishopbriggs Media Centre and by our volunteers working from home. Keep up to date with Cue and Review news via our Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, or Instagram at Cue and Review. That's @CUEANDREVIEW, or get in touch with us directly by emailing information@cueandreview.com. That's INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling us on 0141 772 3979. Please like and share our podcast and give us constructive feedback.
Evening Times Sport, March 5. John Kerr responds to blindfold claim. Report by James Reid. It has long been thought that athletics needs more characters and head-to-head rivalries. In Josh Kerr, the sport has one who knows exactly how to play the game, on and off the track. Kerr is a natural showman. From the golden sunglasses in Budapest last summer, the Titanic surges down the home straight, to the gentle war of words with foe Jacob Ingebrigtsen, the Scot has the theatrical side of sport down to a fine art. Crucially, he is amongst the world's very best over 1,500 metres. Indeed, since storming to world gold, he has looked unbeatable over 3,000 metres too, meaning those words have been backed up with action so far. There will be more sound bites and more scrutiny to come as attention turns to the Paris Olympics, where the showdown between Kerr and Ingebrigtsen will be one of the most hyped events in the entire calendar. Kerr sent out another warning shot to his Norwegian rival on Saturday night as the 26-year-old cruised to 3,000 metres world indoor gold on the home track in Glasgow. It was perhaps the perfect response to Ingebrigtsen's claim that he could beat his rival blindfolded over the distance, with Kerr leaving his talking for the track. Kerr promised that would not be all until now and August, but insisted the growing rivalry is a healthy one for both men involved and the wider sport of athletics. I am not sure if he watches BBC Two, joked Kerr, when asked the Norwegian's reaction to his victory. I am putting these performances together for myself, not anyone else. I am really becoming the athlete I have always wanted to be. We are having a bit of fun back and forth. Hopefully it keeps you guys interested. But I am more looking forward to the head-to-head than all the comments. It's a bit of fun, isn't it? I'm a blabbermouth. I have a bit of an ego, and I enjoy talking a little bit of smack here and there. We train for hours and hours on our own, and we want an outlet to explain ourselves. But we're just having fun. I don't have anything against him. We're just two people who are trying to go after an Olympic title. That's going to come across as a clash sometime, but there's no ill will. We're going to go head-to-head many times this season, I believe. I don't think I am going to win them all, but I will win the right one in Paris. For those looking to plan ahead, August 6th is the date to mark in your calendar for when the pair, plus fellow Scots, Jake Whiteman and Neil Gourley amongst others, will go for 1,500 metres glory. Kerr was joined by pole vaulter Molly Coddery in becoming world champion last Saturday night to create an electric atmosphere at the Commonwealth Arena. Yet Kerr is increasingly of such status and confidence that he does not need anyone else to help him with writing the headlines. These are the moments where he steps up. And he added, "I love these moments. There's a funny feeling that I get every time I step on that track that anything's possible. And I trust my instinct and trust my fitness because it's there every single time. I'm a sick boy with that. I can't stop believing in myself." With that sort of attitude, Kerr likely does not need any words of encouragement. But if his self-belief ever does waver, he can count on a ringing endorsement from one of the greatest ever milers, Seb Coe, who won back-to-back Olympic golds in 1980 and 1984. Coe, who is president of World Athletics, said, "Josh has become physically intimidating on a track. 3,000 metres is a complicated distance indoors, but I thought physically and mentally he had the measure of everyone in that field. The opposition are thinking that as well. We are heading into Paris with the most exciting crop of young athletes I have seen for a few generations." Report by James Reid. Evening Times Sport, March 5. Scottish referees group hits out at disproportionate criticism. Report by Ewan Payton. The Scottish Senior Football Referees Association has hit out at the disproportionate criticism of officials following a weekend of controversial action in the Premiership. The group has accused clubs and managers of deflecting away from their own failings and in turn focusing on referees. Several talking points were raised in Celtic's 2-0 loss to Hearts on Sunday, with Rangers' 2-1 defeat at home to Motherwell on Saturday also highlighting issues. Kilmarnock, Aberdeen and other teams also feel aggrieved over officiating at the weekend. Brendan Rodgers blasted John Beaton on VAR for the Celtic game, with incompetence the main takeaway from his outburst in his post-match press conference. The Irishman now faces punishment from the Scottish FA for his comments, with the compliance officer in contact with Celtic over the matter. Now the Scottish Senior Football Referees Association has issued a statement in response, and it reads, "It has become too easy throughout the course of this season for managers and clubs to turn the focus and resultant fan ire onto match officials, often to deflect from team performance and results. We freely appreciate the importance of matches, especially now as we head into the defining period of a season for the destiny of the Championship, European and top 6 places, as well as relegation and play-off matters. Nonetheless, match officials should be able to carry out their duties without fear of them impacting their personal lives, their personal safety, and the safety and security of their families. It is regrettable that criticism, which we generally accept as a part of the game for players and coaches as well as referees, has become more frequent, disproportionate, and personalised towards our members. Everyone involved in Scottish football has a responsibility to behave professionally and respectfully, and to understand the consequences of their actions." Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, March 5. Van Bronckhorst finally has say about that Michael Beale Rangers visit. Report by Ewan Payton. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has slammed Michael Beale for his visit to Ibrox as he fought to save his job at Rangers. With pressure mounting on the Dutchman in the autumn of 2022, Beale suddenly appeared in the main stand at Ibrox, as he was treated as a VIP in the director's box for a home game against Aberdeen. He was spotted mixing it with punters in the Loudon Tavern prior to the game, with many raising eyebrows over the timing of his appearance. Less than a month later, Van Bronckhorst was sacked by Rangers during the World Cup break after only 12 months in charge. He was subsequently replaced by Beale, who himself only had just under a year at the helm of the club, after he jumped ship from Queen's Park Rangers after only 6 months to take up the reins in Glasgow. Beale's public appearance at Ibrox, in the lead-up to his moment in the sun, received widespread criticism at the time. While Van Bronckhorst guided his team to a 4-1 victory that day, he was out of a job soon enough. And Gio has not spoken about the situation until now, nearly 18 months on, insisting he would never have behaved in that manner as Beale stepped out of line. He told 442, "I don't think you should really do that as a fellow manager. You should not sit in the stands at a match when your colleague is feeling the pressure at that moment. I would never have done that." Beale said of the matter in December 2022, "I'd been away a year. My plan was always to come back and do a game as a fan. I'd always wanted to come up and watch Rangers as a fan over the years, then found myself working here inside. That trip was planned 5 or 6 weeks previously. If that's the perception, I hope Gio doesn't think that, because it certainly wasn't my intention. I just came back to watch the game and see a few people I had not said goodbye to in the community I lived in." Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, March 6. Rangers injury boost. Report by David Irvin. Rangers have been handed an injury boost, with Ross McCausland fit to take part in training, despite fears of a serious issue. The winger joined his teammates in training at Auchenhowie this morning, just days after hobbling off injured against Motherwell in the Scottish Premiership. The 20-year-old McCausland could not continue at Ibrox after feeling the effects of a strong Dan Casey challenge in the 2-1 loss. Philippe Clement had blasted the challenge from Casey after the match, branding it too dangerous, as he revealed McCausland was struggling to walk in the immediate aftermath. No foul was given for Casey's challenge, with the Motherwell defender going on to score the winner for his side with a well-taken headed finish. There was good news for Rangers though, on McCausland's condition, with the winger fully able to take part in training ahead of the Europa League last 16 first leg against Benfica on Thursday. Abdallah Sima and Oscar Cortez are both out injured for Rangers, leaving Clement's wide options limited in the league and in Europe, but McCausland could now feature for Rangers in Portugal. Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, March 6. Derek McInnes says, "We are looking for consistency." Report by Ewan Payton. Derek McInnes reckons on-field referees need to be granted more authority in their decision-making when it comes to the use of VAR. The Kilmarnock boss was left bewildered with some of the weekend action regarding the officials in various instances across the Premiership, not only involving his team. Lewis Mayo was sent off for the denial of a goal-scoring opportunity For an awkward collision with Scott Tiffany at Dundee, Luke McCowan stepped up to score the resultant penalty to add salt to the wounds. Kilmarnock's appeal was unsuccessful with the Scottish FA panel yesterday, and it is consistency or lack of it that's the main bugbear for McInnes. The 52-year-old said, "I still think the same offence that you see in different weeks is not being punished the same way. We are just looking for consistency. I think it is unfair to say that managers hide behind VAR and blame VAR and referees for decisions. We are all in this together to try and reach the correct decisions more often than not. We have all invested in a tool to try and assist the referees, to try and help to get to better decisions. Other than the offside, I think we're still having so many more challenges. By this stage, I think we should be far more clear on criteria. What should merit red and yellow cards, when VAR should interfere and when they should not. When we should re-referee the game and when we should give the referee more autonomy. It changes from week to week, and I don't think there are clear messages being put out there. I just like to see our better referees on the pitch more. I've always been big on that. I don't think we have the benefit or luxury of having an abundance of top referees. I think because of VAR, we are accelerating a lot of younger referees into a position when more senior referees should be the ones on the pitch. I know they've got to be trained and developed in the VAR room. I think too often our better referees are not on the pitch, and I'd rather see them there and in charge. At this stage of the season, it becomes even more serious and prevalent that we get decisions right. McInnes highlighted Corey Nadaba's red card against Hibs in January as an example of the inconsistencies surrounding the way VAR intervenes. The club opted not to appeal that decision, but felt Mailer's sending off was worthy of making a case. This left many fans curious about the thought process, with the latter seemingly causing less dubiety than the former. McInnes explained, "On the Nadaba Vincent, it indicated to me that the criteria were met for a red card, even though I disagreed with the notion there was any speed or danger in it. On Saturday, I did not see an infringement. I don't see a foul by Lewis. I saw a coming together. He's trying to hold him off. I don't see him grabbing. I don't see him pulling Tiffany down. Yes, Tiffany gets ahead of him, but I still don't see the foul there." Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, March 6. Walks with dog. Help. Celtic defender. Deal with run-in. Report by Matthew Lindsay. Playing for Celtic can be challenging, even when everything is going according to plan. The Parkhead Club are expected to win every game and competition they are involved in domestically by their legions of ultra-passionate supporters around the world, and there is a constant pressure on those who wear the green and white hoop jersey to perform to their very best. But the past month or so will have proved particularly exacting for Brendan Rodgers' charges. Costly draws with Aberdeen away and Kilmarnock at home have enabled their resurgent city rivals Rangers to leapfrog them into pole position in the Singe Premiership table for the first time in 2 long years. Then on Sunday they passed up the chance, which was unexpectedly presented to them when the league leaders were beaten at home by Motherwell on Saturday, to reclaim first place in the table when they lost to Hearts at Tynecastle. The mental and physical demands on Cameron Carter-Vickers and his teammates, who take on Livingston in the quarter-finals of the Scottish Gas Scottish Cup in the East End of Glasgow on Sunday, in the coming weeks promise to be considerable. Yet Alistair Johnston, the Celtic right-back who returned from a 2.5-week injury layoff in the triumph over Motherwell at Fir Park last month, is confident they all have the minerals required to deal with what promises to be a fraught end to the 23-24 campaign. The Canadian international rubbish suggestions the dressing room was disjointed and expressed complete conviction they have the resolve required to put the weekend reverse behind them, achieve their objectives, and lift more silverware. He said, "Interesting, I haven't heard the disjointed part. The locker room is really together again. We have got great leaders. We have got guys like Callum McGregor and Joe Hart and James Forrest, who have played in difficult run-ins and lifted all kinds of trophies. There are quite a few guys in that locker room who won it last year and who understand what it takes to win. So I think there is that confidence and that self-belief there for sure. With it being Joe's last season, we want to send him off right. So there are things like that as well. The confidence is definitely there. The togetherness is there. I haven't really noticed any difference from last year when I came into this year." Johnson is adamant the defending champions, who are just 2 points off the top spot and still have to face Philippe Clement's men twice, can retain the Premiership trophy come May if they play to their full potential. And he continued, "There is still a really good group of guys who come in here and work hard every day and who fight for each other. I am really excited for these next few months. It is a chance to play our football. If we do that, anything is possible. All that really matters is what is in that room over there, and at the end of the day, what is in that room is what is going to take us to the title or not. It comes down to that. It is down to us. It is in our control. There is nothing more to add." Johnson and his fellow Celtic players have been booed by their own supporters after disappointing results, criticised by media pundits on radio phone-ins and television programmes following draws and defeats, and savaged by online snipers on social media when their form has fallen short of the standards expected. But the fullback, who quickly established himself as a regular first-team starter after he was signed from Montreal in his homeland in January last year, and has performed consistently well in defence and attack since, has no difficulty escaping from the madness and recharging his batteries. They say that a dog is a man's best friend, and that is certainly the case for him. He revealed that taking out his black Labrador retriever, Salem, out for walks helps to take his mind off things. Asked if he ever found it tough to cope with life in the Glasgow Goldfish Bowl, he said, "Me? I don't find it difficult. If you are on the social media platforms, you will, maybe, get a bit of it. But a lot of us don't really read that stuff. You just keep doing what you do in your normal life. All of us have hobbies outside of football, so we just stick to that. I have a dog, a black lab called Salem, so I walk the dog and do things like that. The days pass and you can just focus on other things and not get too wound up about a title race. I have other things in my life." Johnson appreciates that these players who joined after their treble-winning season, the likes of Paulo Bernardo, Odin Thiago Holm, Yang, Adam Ida, Nicholas Kuhn and Louis Palmer, may have found the intensity of representing Celtic to be something of a shock to the system since arriving. However, he emphasised that the senior professionals are ensuring that everyone in the squad remains firmly focused on what matters most, producing their A game on the park, winning matches, and lifting trophies. And he said, "It is not always easy, especially for the new guys coming in. They maybe have not felt this kind of pressure before, and scrutiny from living in a city that is this football mad. But the older guys are here for them through this kind of period. We just kind of block out the noise." Report by Matthew Lindsay. Evening Times Sport, March 6. Loza on Scotland's task as they head into Euros campaign. Report by Alison McConnell. Pedro Martinez Loza has insisted that the task for Scotland's women is straightforward as they head into their European Championships campaign. The Scots will take on Serbia, Slovakia and Israel as they look to make it to Switzerland next year. After their relegation from League A into League B, Scotland's route to the tournament needs to be via the playoffs after the group stage. The top 3 countries from the 4 groups in League B will meet to go forward to final playoff games. And Martina Loza is confident Scotland can avoid a hat-trick of major tournaments passing them by. Said the Spaniard, "It might sound complicated on paper, but in reality it is very straightforward. For every player, the pinnacle of their career is representing their country at a major tournament, and that is the same for managers and for coaches. It is what we all want. It is in our hands. We narrowly missed the last tournament with the playoff defeat to the Republic of Ireland. This is another exciting opportunity for us, and this is what we have been searching for this chance to go and compete on a major stage." Martinez Loza admitted that he had hoped to avoid Serbia, but insisted that Scotland should not fear anyone. They go into the qualifiers in the back of what was a harrowing Nations League campaign that finished winless, while they lost out in the Pinnater Cup last week in Spain after a penalty shootout defeat to Finland. Still, Martinez Loza maintained that his side are ready to compete to make it onto the plane next summer, and he continued, "I will be honest and say that I had wanted to avoid Serbia. They are a very difficult team and very competitive, but we cannot change the draw. I am confident we can beat all 3 opponents. We have been searching for this outcome since the FIFA World Cup playoff defeat. We are united, and we know that we can go and compete. We have to play the Group 1 game at a time. We will have to face challenging moments, but I am confident." Caroline Weir and Emma Watson are both back in tentative training as they look to return from ACL injuries. There is no time frame on when they are expected back to full fitness, although inevitably Martinez Loza is watching with interest given the massive gap they have left in the squad. And he said, "I am not sure of the timeline of when they are potentially available, and also when they will be not just available, but fully ready. We have to respect all the different steps. If we could involve them at some time, and available, and the best way to compete, but we have to respect the different steps. If we could involve them, it would be great, but for the playoff, they will be more than ready." Report by Alison McConnell. Evening Times Sport, March 6. Insight into Van der Merwe's driven mindset. Report by Martin McMillan. Pete Horn has given an insight into the driven mindset of record-chasing Scotland wing Duan van der Merwe ahead of the Guinness Six Nations showdown with Italy in Rome. The 28-year-old's match-defining hat-trick against England a week past Saturday took him to 26 international touchdowns, within one of Stuart Hogg at the top of the Scots list of all-time try-scorers. Van der Merwe could equal or break the record if he crosses the whitewash at the Stadio Olimpico this weekend. But assistant coach Horn revealed how the combative wing returned to camp last Thursday, just 5 days after his Calcutta Cup heroics, and immediately wanted to start working on becoming stronger in contact and not getting turned over as often. Said Horn, "He just showed against England how much quality he's got. The match before against France, I think he was a little bit disappointed that he had not broken a tackle for the first time in his life. It just shows the manner of him, as he saw that almost as a challenge, and he was outstanding against England. I love his character. I probably underestimated how much of a student of the game he is before I came in as a coach. I love working with him because he's always looking for little bits to work on. The first thing he said to me was, 'We need to catch up. I need to work on when defenders are soaking on me. I'm getting griefed because I've got nobody to bump.' He scored 3 tries, got man of the match, and that was the first thing he's come out with when we come in last Thursday. He's got a real growth mindset around his game. He's constantly looking at ways to get better. I think it's only a matter of time before he scores another couple and gets that record for himself." Scotland have lost influential centre Sion Tuipulotu for the remainder of the Six Nations due to a knee injury sustained against England, with Bath's Cam Redpath expected to deputise in Rome. Said Horn, "Cam was outstanding off the bench against England. He's been pushing the boys who have been starting really hard and has been pushing for an opportunity for a long time. He was so well prepped and performed so well after having to come on early in the game. I was so chuffed for him. Cam's having a great season. He and Finn are going really well together at Bath. Speaking to their coaches, I know Cam is very highly regarded there. He's just got something about him. He's a test match animal, and he's got real X factor. If he gets the nod this weekend, we'll all be really excited to see him play." Scotland are currently second in the Six Nations table after winning 2 of the 3 matches so far, but they would need a favour from England against Ireland on Saturday in order to take their title bid to a last weekend showdown in Dublin. And Horn said, "We're not talking too much about any of that. We spent the whole week talking about controlling everything that is in our power. We need to do a professional job this weekend, go over there and beat Italy. That's all we are focused on. We're pretty happy with where we're at. We feel the tweaks to our game, the way we've evolved since the World Cup, have been good. We're right in the mix, and we should be 3 from 3 after what should have been a match-winning try against France was disallowed. We can't be disappointed with that, but we definitely feel that we've left a lot of opportunities out there. It's a good place to be where we're getting some decent results, but we're still not playing quite at our potential." Report by Martin Macmillan. Evening Times Sport, March 7. Clermont dismisses distraction call ahead of Benfica clash. Report by Chris Jack. Philippe Clermont has built a side that is hungry for success. That is why he will never pick and choose from a medal menu as he strives to put more silverware on the table at Ibrox. In the minds of some supporters, the fixtures with Benfica are a side dish that risk overshadowing the main course for Rangers. That is not the case for Clermont. A meeting with the Portuguese giants comes in the middle of a hectic run of domestic action, but that is what the Belgian signed up for when he replaced Michael Beale. Quite simply, if you cannot handle the heat, you should get out of the kitchen. Clermont has been cooking up a storm since October. Victory over Real Betis a couple of months after his appointment secured a spot in this stage of the competition, and it was followed by the first trophy of his tenure as Aberdeen were beaten at Hampden. In the weeks since, Clermont has turned Rangers from hopeless challengers into potential champions, and his side topped the billing in the Premiership with just 9 matches remaining this term. The task of competing at home and abroad is one which can stretch even the most star-studded and expensively assembled squads in the game, never mind a group that is once again without a handful of its most established operators. Clermont finds solutions rather than excuses, though. Time will tell if he has the recipe for success. No, Clermont said, when asked if the Benfica fixtures were a distraction that he could do without. And I said it in December. There were some people of the board who told me before our European game that it was maybe more important that we won the League Cup. I told them I never go that way, because I want players who are hungry for every occasion and want to win every occasion. It doesn't work that way. It's not like a menu in a restaurant that you pick out and now we're going to perform there or there. Like this, you don't create a winning culture. Okay, it's a busy schedule, that's true, but it is about us working really hard with all the players, all the staff, to get the players ready, and for the players also to show that they are ready for that kind of competition. We're going to full for this game, going to go full at the weekend, and go full again on Thursday. We will go like that until the end of the season. No, the comment didn't surprise me, because it was really with good intentions. The hunger to win a trophy again was so big in the club that everybody put emphasis on it. But afterwards, after our night in Spain, they were also really happy, and after winning the League Cup, they were even more happy than they had both. I think everybody understands that we want to get the best out of everything, and that we are going to work hard. That claim may have come out of the blue, but it was made with the heart as well as the head. Clermont knows as well as anyone at Ibrox that he will be judged on what he wins, and that is how legacies are formed at a club, where medals and trophies are the only barometer of success. Those December days against Betis and Aberdeen helped set the tone for what has come since. Clermont now faces his sternest test yet in Lisbon. He has previously described Rangers as the underdogs in this fight and insisted that it is the first time in his reign where the odds have been so heavily stacked against him. Those supporters who have made the trip to the Portuguese capital will surely be satisfied with a share of the spoils. Some may even take a narrow defeat. The Ibrox injury crisis may force Clermont to alter his approach, but the mindset will never change for the Belgian. Said Clermont, "We come to win now. I never start a game to lose or to play for a draw. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in putting the bus and only defending. I never did that. When it was with smaller teams to play in Madrid or in Paris or in Leipzig with Bruges, we always attacked to win games. I don't think if you have a culture of that and working on every day to create chances to score goals, and then for one game you're going to do the total opposite. The moment you get a goal against you, kill the minds of your players. We will always play to create chances, like we did in Spain in that game, when we defended really well, and we attacked also. it is going to be the same. We need to defend really well because they have a lot of qualities in that way. These occasions have so often brought the best out of Rangers in recent seasons. Indeed, it says so much about the nights that have been enjoyed and the progress that has been made that supporters are somewhat nonchalant about being involved in this stage of European competition. Clermont will never take it for granted. A place in the last 8 would bring back memories of a run to Seville and allow some to dare to dream. First, Rangers must rise to the occasion on the continent once again. Said Clermont, the hunger, the desire. Also, you can play a different kind of football. I don't know if you have been outside already, but if you see the pitch, it is like Ibrox, and you can play good football. That changes the style of play, and everyone knows that all of Europe is watching them. They did really good things. It was a very strong performance to finish first in a group like that in the Europa League. Now it is a new challenge, and a really huge one because Benfica will be ready. It will not be that they are underestimating. They need to react themselves, so getting a result here would be a huge thing. Rangers have made the journey abroad, still smarting from their defeat to Motherwell on Saturday. It was a result that saw no damage done in the title race, but which came from nowhere, as Clermont's side hit an unexpected bump in the road. The same can be said of their hosts. Benfica lost 2-1 to Sporting last midweek, before suffering a 5-0 humiliation at the hands of Porto. That naturally makes them something of a wounded animal, but the gulf in resources was always going to make one of the great European names a considerable foe for Rangers to overcome. Huge, Clermont said when asked how he would describe the challenge of facing Benfica, but because of that, also exciting for us. There are not many games for Rangers that you don't have much to lose. Normally, you are the favourites. You need to win. You need to be dominant. You need to score a lot of goals. The expectations are high. In this case, you need to be realistic. You know they have more than double your budget, but we are really ambitious. We are going to work really hard to get a result in the 2 games and to qualify. We are also convinced, all of us, that it is not only about money and about budget, but about the other things, and that we are going to show our quality and work really hard in the 2 games. Report by Chris Jack. Evening Times Sport, March 7. McInnes not interested in Watson and Miller debate. Report by Ewan Payton. Scotland is fortunate to have 2 top young talents in the Premiership, and we should enjoy them while they are here. That's the feeling of Kilmarnock manager Derek McInnes. The 52-year-old brought David Watson into his first team a little under a year ago, with the midfielder making himself a mainstay in the starting 11, despite his recent appearances from the bench. The teenager has scored vital goals against Celtic and Aberdeen in recent months for the Rugby Park club, as the 19-year-old looks to build on an already promising start to his career. Lennon Miller has equally caught the eye of many after his stunning breakthrough campaign at Motherwell. The 17-year-old's turn to get away from both Callum McGregor and Matt O'Reilly against Celtic in the game at Fir Park on February 25 certainly earned him plenty of attention from fans and pundits. Discourse appears to have started over which of the emerging talents will be crowned Scotland's Young Player of the Year come the end of the season in May. McInnes will not get caught up in the result of that discussion, preferring to focus on where Watson's career could be headed. The Kilmarnock boss said, I generally do not think it's that important in terms of who gets that particular accolade. Both of those boys have done really well this season. We are delighted with Davy. He's done everything we've asked of him and met every challenge. When we first came in, he was 16. We got him training with the first team every day, and we exposed him to that. He was then captain of the under-18s team, captain of the reserve team, and he'll probably end up being the captain of our first team at some point. He did it briefly last week, and I've no doubt he'll do it a lot more often in the future. His development has been different class. We've got good options in central midfield. We've got two boys missing just now who started the season really well for us, Kyle McGuinness and Brad Lyons. With Steve Clarke set to name his Scotland squad for their upcoming international friendlies against the Netherlands and Northern Ireland, McInnes was asked if Danny Armstrong could be in with an outside chance of being selected, revealing that the winger can also turn out for the Republic of Ireland. McInnes pointed out that Stuart Findlay had returned to the form that saw him earn a cap for his country back in 2019. He said, "Stevie has been pretty consistent and loyal to the players who have got Scotland to the Euros. There maybe won't be too many spaces up for grabs, but who knows? It's good that we've even got boys in that sort of conversation for the national team. Danny's been really consistent for us for a while now. It's that consistency that normally elevates you over a period of time. I actually think Stuart Findlay is playing every bit as well now as he was when he was in the Scotland squad and was capped a few years ago. He's been outstanding for us this season." Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, March 7. R&A make changes to open exemption. Report by Martin McMillan. The R&A has made changes to exemption categories for the Open, but there has been no concession to LIV golf. With no world ranking points available to players on the Saudi Breakaway Tour, it is becoming increasingly difficult for them to qualify via that route. Although, as former major winners, John Ram, Cameron Smith, Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, Bryson DeChambeau and Phil Mickelson already have places in the field for Royal Troon in July. Other LIV golfers guaranteed spots without having to qualify are Tyrrell Hatton, Dean Burmester, Adrian Meronk, Jochen Niemann, Louis Oosthuizen and David Pugh. As relations continue to thaw between the previously warring parties as a result of a merger agreement between the PGA Tour and LIV, there had been suggestions that R&A could make allowances for LIV golfers, particularly after its chief executive Greg Norman wrote to players on Tuesday to say it would no longer be pursuing its long battle to secure world ranking points. Masters champion Ram, one of 3 LIV golfers with a win in the last 5 majors, was not a fan of the rankings before he made the move in December. "I'm going to go back to what I said 2 years ago. I didn't think it was a good system back then," said the Spaniard, ahead of LIV Golf Hong Kong, which begins on Friday. "If anything, the more time goes on, the more it proves to be wrong." The most significant change made by the R&A is the reduction of the exemption period for new champions to the age of 55. Past champions will still be able to play until the age of 60. Tom Watson famously came close to winning a 6th claret jug just 7 weeks before his 60th birthday at Turnberry in 2009. Other changes will see players competing on the Asian Tour, the Japan Golf Tour, the PGA Tour of Australasia, and the Sunshine Tour, able to qualify via one of the top 5 slots on the International Federation ranking list. An exemption has also been established for the Africa Amateur Champion, with South African Alton van der Merwe attending this year after winning the inaugural event last month. Report by Martin Macmillan. Evening Times Sport, March 7. Rogers faces Old Firm dugout ban. Report by Ewan Payton. Brendan Rodgers faces being absent from the dugout for Celtic's trip to Ibrox next month. The Hoops boss was cited by the Scottish FA over his furious outburst at VAR official John Beaton and referee Don Robertson, following his side's 2-0 loss to Hearts. The SFA's compliance officer hit the 51-year-old with a notice of complaint for his breach of Rule 72 after he blasted the pair's incompetence, insisting their officiating cost Celtic in the capital. The hearing date with the disciplinary panel has been set for Thursday, March 28. He could be hit with a minimum 2-game ban, which would see the Irishman sit in the stands for Celtic's next games after that date, Livingston on March 31 and Rangers away on April 7. It is believed that the Parkhead Club are ready to fight the charges against Rodgers. However, if he's found guilty, then John Kennedy could be the main voice for the Hoops players from the away dugout at Ibrox. Rodgers said post-match on Sunday, "My feeling is that the game was decided by officials on the field and outside the field. I try to respect decisions and give the benefit of the doubt. But when I see that level of incompetence, the only word I can use, then that makes me worry for the game. In such a tight title race, which it is, and it's fantastic and great to be involved in, that can make the difference." Rodgers' comments sent him on an inevitable collision course with the SFA compliance officer, with strict rules over managers questioning the competence of their officials. Rule 72 states, "No recognised football body, club, official, team official or other member of team staff, player or other person under the jurisdiction of the Scottish FA shall in an interview, a blog on the internet, on a social networking or micro-blogging site, or in any other manner calculated or likely to lead to publicity, criticise the decision and decisions and or performance or performances of any or all match officials in such a way as to indicate bias or incompetence on the part of such match official, or make remarks about such match officials which impinge on his character." Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, March 7. Sport bodies unite to oppose alcohol advertising ban. Report by Graham McGarry. Governing bodies from across Scottish sport have united to warn about the grave consequences that a total ban on alcohol sponsorship and advertising could have, both from a financial standpoint and on the nation's ability to host major events, saying that any ban would have profound social, financial and sporting implications. In response to the Scottish Government consultation on restricting alcohol advertising and promotion carried out last year, the Scottish Professional Football League, the Scottish Women's Premier League, the Scottish FA, Scottish Rugby, the R&A, Scottish Golf, Scottish Racing, and the British Horse Racing Authority issued a joint response outlining their opposition to any blanket ban on commercial partnership with the drinks industry. In the Times yesterday, Eleanor Jane, Director of Scottish Health Action on Alcohol Problems, SHAAP, outlined the case for the Scottish Government to follow through on a blanket ban of alcohol sponsorship in sport. But spokespeople for many of the governing bodies have told Times Sport they would be strongly opposed to any such legislation. In their rebuttal to the proposals outlined in the Scottish Government consultation, they argued there is a lack of robust evidence that the presence of alcoholic sponsorship in Scottish sports leads to alcohol-related harm, or that they have seen any evidence-based justification that restrictions on marketing would lead to a reduction in consumption of alcohol. Their statement reads, "Our commitment is to work with government and others to grow the positive impact of professional sport in Scotland even further. We recognise too that Scotland's professional sports have an important role to play in critical public health agendas. We are fully committed to playing our part in supporting the Scottish Government to achieve the national public health outcome of a Scotland which is healthier and more active. And with the popularity and reach of professional sports across Scotland, we recognise our important role in other public health agendas, including reducing harmful consumption of alcohol. This is a responsibility we take seriously. Within our respective sports, we have been proactive in working with partners and fans to promote responsible drinking, and we know that the majority of sporting fans enjoy alcohol in moderation. As well as highlighting the positive role that Scottish sport has played in relaying messages around responsible drinking to their fan bases, governing bodies, particularly the SPFL, are concerned that the removal of revenue from existing alcohol sponsors could even lead to the closure of some football clubs. And they said, sponsorship of Scottish sport by alcohol companies and brands accounts for significant and vital revenue. This sponsorship can include the sponsoring of competitions, physical advertising in sports stadia and events, and sponsorship of teams and clubs. It is vital funding that sustains the operation of professional sports competitions and clubs in Scotland, as well as being reinvested in the growth of our respective sports. To remove this vital revenue stream at a time of the most significant economic challenges for a generation would undoubtedly have severe financial implications for Scottish professional sport. Although sources of sponsorship are diversified across Scottish sport, any prohibition of sports sponsorship could have a pronounced impact on individual sports clubs and competitions which have a greater reliance on sponsorship from alcohol brands and companies. For example, operating costs in professional football in Scotland can be high, and many football clubs operate modest, if any, profit. Sponsorship is particularly important in this context. Depending on any transition period for proscribing sports sponsorship, it would not be unrealistic to expect that some clubs and competitions which are reliant on sponsorship from alcohol brands could cease operating. Supporters of a ban point to the example of France, where loi enfant, regulation prohibiting the advertising of alcohol and tobacco products in sport, has been in place since 1991, arguing that sporting bodies and individual clubs continue to thrive regardless with alternative sponsorship sources. But the counter-argument is that the comparison between the nations is not like for like. And the response read, Loi Evan was introduced in 1991, 4 years before rugby became a professional sport. Given that, in a rugby context, French rugby has never been in a position to access alcohol sponsorship in the professional era, it's hardly a fair-minded comparison to Scotland. It should be noted that in the absence of private sponsorship by alcohol brands, France is the country which devotes the most public money to sport in the EU. All sporting expenses combined, the annual funding for sport amounts to an eye-watering €40 billion. Another era that critics of a ban argue the nation's standing would be affected by the outlawing of advertising by alcohol brands is in Scotland's ability to host major events, such as the European Championships in 2028. They argue a key way in which the reputation and competitiveness of Scottish sport is supported is through participation and hosting of major international sports competitions and events. This includes, for example, the participation of Scottish football clubs in the UEFA Champions League and other European competitions, bids to host international football tournaments such as the UEFA European Championships and the Six Nations Championship. All of these tournaments and competitions have official sponsors, which include alcohol brands. As far as we are aware, there is no equivalent precedent or international comparison for legislation which seeks to completely prohibit advertising in sport by alcohol brands and companies, as opposed to alcohol products. Any prohibition, which does apply to alcohol brands by definition, as well as products, would create uncertainty around Scotland's ability to host major international sporting events where major or official sponsors are alcohol brands. This is because commercial sponsorship agreements for major multinational tournaments are negotiated by international sporting bodies and associations, and the complications arising from excluding an existing major sponsor from a tournament would likely be perceived as a major disincentive to host such tournaments in Scotland. In practical terms, this could have clear implications for Scotland's continued participation in the joint UK and Ireland bid to host UEFA Euro Championships in 2028. Report by Graham McGarry. Evening Times Sport, March 8. Philippe Clement fumes over harsh Rangers penalty. Report by Ewan Payton. Rangers boss Philippe Clement has taken aim at the handball rule after his side were on the receiving end of a dubious penalty decision last night. The Ibrox club secured a valuable 2-2 draw in Lisbon, with the return leg of their Europa League last 16 tie set up nicely for next midweek in Glasgow. The Scots led twice in the game through Tom Lawrence and Dujon Sterling. However, an Angel Di Maria strike from the spot and an own goal by Connor Goldson saw the game end in a stalemate. For the hosts' first equaliser, John Souttar was controversially pulled up for handball after a VAR check. The referee did not award the penalty in real time, but after being advised to check the pitchside monitor, he overturned his original decision, and Clement was furious at that penalty award, slamming the handball rule. The Belgian said, "It is very harsh. I have said it already a few times, but I do not agree with where the game is going with the handball situation. But those are the rules. I had more problems with some situations in the last few weeks, but with this one gets given because of the rules. But as someone who loves football, I have difficulty with those rules like all other managers and players. It is too harsh now that a ball that is clearly not intended to hit your arm is given as a penalty the moment it touches you. Too many games all over the world are decided in this way, but those are the rules. Maybe when I am finished as a manager, I can do something to make the game more simple again, and for referees also, as it's difficult for them too." Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, March 8. Cole McKinnon on Rangers' Philippe Clement message. Report by Ewan Payton. Cole McKinnon admits he did not have a clue that he would make his European debut for Rangers last night. The young midfielder was used as a second-half substitute as he helped Philippe Clement's side to a valuable draw against Benfica in Lisbon. Tom Lawrence and Dujon Sterling got the goals for the Ibrox club, with the game ending in a 2-2 stalemate. The second leg takes place at Ibrox next week, with the last 16 tie hanging in the balance as both sides attempt to get through to the quarter-finals. The 21-year-old made his full Rangers debut in a win over Hearts in May 2022, but last night signalled the latest personal milestone for the player, who featured in an unnatural wide position in Portugal. McKinnon told Rangers TV, "I am absolutely buzzing. Obviously it's gutting not to get the win in the end, but it's good to take a draw back to Ibrox, and everyone knows what Ibrox is like on a European night. I am happy on a personal note, and hopefully the team can get the job done after Sunday. I never actually knew I was coming on. It was just during the warm-up it was a possibility. I was buzzing, but there were no nerves there. I just wanted to get on the pitch as soon as possible, and obviously I got the call. Not happy with a few touches, but delighted the team could get the draw." Asked what Clement's message was, he added, "He just said he believed in me, and he knew it's not my usual position, but he thought I did well in there in training, and he trusted me. Also just to get up and down the pitch, and I thought I did well. It just shows the belief he's got in young boys, and hopefully there will be more appearances to come. After that I cannot wait to get back home and get training again. Obviously I'm a Rangers fan as well, so it's even better. I loved every minute out there, same as my debut." Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, March 8. Rangers and Celtic Champions League slot state of play. Report by Ewan Payton. Scotland's automatic path into the Champions League was handed a potential boost after the latest round of European fixtures last night. Scotland sits just inside UEFA's top 10 when it comes to the governing body's coefficient ranking table. Retaining this place is imperative when securing automatic passage for the champions of Scotland into the Champions League. In the wave of European ties before the last 16 round, the Czech Republic dealt Scotland's hopes for Rangers and Celtic a hammer blow. With 3 teams remaining across the Europa League and Europa Conference League, the Czechs caught up with Scotland by getting their coefficient score to 35.3, with Scotland sitting at 35.85. It was a terrible result for Scotland's coefficient, with the Czechs holding a distinct advantage in this situation because they have 3 teams remaining in European competition, while the Scots are solely reliant on Rangers to fly the flag. So, of course, while Rangers' progression into the quarter-finals of this season's Europa League is vital to keeping 10th spot in the rankings and not dropping down to 11th, it would be more beneficial for Scotland if all 3 Czech teams were to be eliminated as soon as possible. Wins are worth 2 coefficient points, while draws earn clubs 1. Defeats are not awarded any points. A further point is awarded to each nation for every team that progresses through the knockout rounds. After last night's last 16 first leg encounters, from a Scottish perspective, thankfully that looks like a distinct possibility. Rangers earned a 2-2 draw in Lisbon against Benfica and will take on the Portuguese giants at Ibrox next midweek. Both Sparta and Slavia Prague suffered heavy defeats at the hands of Liverpool and AC Milan, respectively 5-1 and 4-2. The former will play at Anfield next, with the latter welcoming the Serie A team to the Czech capital. Into the Conference League, and the only Czech team to come away with a positive result was Victoria Pilsen. Their first leg against Servette ended goalless in Switzerland, meaning they will be confident of making home advantage count in the return leg. So, in order for Scotland to cling on to its spot inside the top 10, Rangers need to overcome Benfica next week, with the hope that all 3 Czech teams exit European competition. If Scotland manages to keep 10th, whoever wins the Premiership will remain in line to automatically qualify for the Champions League and the £40 million riches that come with that accolade. With the Czechs close behind in the coefficient table, this is obviously under threat. However, regardless of the outcome in the coefficient stakes, whoever wins Scotland's top flight this season will still automatically enter the revamped Champions League next term, with any potential changes coming into play in the following campaign, which is the 2025-26 season. Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, March 11. Clement in latest Rangers swipe at Beale. Report by Ewan Payton. Philippe Clement last night appeared to take a fresh swipe at former Rangers boss Michael Beale following his side's 2-0 win over Hibs. John Lundstrom and Fabio Silva were on the scoresheet as the visitors defeated the 9-man Hibs in the capital. It was an action-packed game with a penalty, chances aplenty, 2 red cards and some lengthy injury stoppages. Martin Boyle received treatment on the pitch for a long period before being stretchered off, with his condition now stable in hospital. But Rangers also suffered a double injury blow, with Dujon Sterling limping off early in the first half, and his replacement, Ross McCausland, having to come off injured as well. Clement insists he will have to be creative with his team line-up against Benfica on Thursday if neither player is fit enough to be involved. However, in an apparent dig at the previous management regime at Ibrox, the Belgian claims this will be nothing new to him, as there looked to have been vital preparation missed prior to the season. On the injuries to Sterling and McCausland, he told Viaplay, "I don't know, to be honest. We need to see the next couple of days to see how serious it is. It is quite a list, but we need to focus on the players who are fit and other players who are getting chances. I am happy Rabbi Matondo was back getting minutes after his injury and continues doing what we have been doing, working really hard to get results. Then we will see with the injured players. That is the work of the medical staff. A massive game against a very good opponent on Thursday. I hope we can recover Ross McCausland and Dujong Sterling for that game. I hope that, or otherwise I need to be very, very creative. I have been very creative already in previous weeks and months. We need to look for other solutions, but we will see. We can only give our best and everything we can with the squad we have here and available. All the boys are working hard to be fit for all those games. Maybe they missed a lot of things in the preparation towards this season. That is really clear for everybody. So we need to make a big preparation next year so that we don't come into a situation like this anymore. But for now it is game by game and giving everything with the squad and giving chances to the young lads like Cole McKinnon. Evening Times Sport, March 11. Desers wins Nigeria international recall. Report by Mark Walker. Rangers striker Cyril Desers has won an international recall for the first time in almost 2 years for managerless Nigeria. But the Nigerian FA have bizarrely yet to reveal who will manage the Super Eagles for their 2 friendlies in Morocco against Ghana and Mali, or who picked their squad. Desers has scored 16 goals for Rangers in all competitions, and that was enough to earn the 29-year-old a recall after his last call-up in 2022 for the friendly matches in Marrakesh. He has won 4 caps for his country and scored once against Mexico in a friendly in the USA. Nigeria parted company with former boss Jose Peseiro earlier this month after they lost in the African Cup of Nations final to Ivory Coast, and they have yet to reveal who will take charge of the team for the games or even who selected the squad after announcing it without a press conference. The squad excluded 8 players from the tournament and also included a recall for former Rangers flop Sadiq Umar. Press reports have suggested former Ajax star Finidi George could take on the role of interim manager and combine it with his current job as manager of Nigerian side Enyimba. Evening Times Sport, March 11. Jones backs Townsend after Scotland's Rome collapse. Hugh Jones batted away any notion that Scotland head coach Gregor Townsend was under pressure after Saturday's Guinness Six Nations implosion in Italy. The Scots blew their chance to set up a shootout for the title with Ireland in Dublin next weekend, as they went down 31-29 in Rome, despite holding a 22-10 lead after an encouraging opening half an hour. It was the Azuris' first Six Nations victory at home for 11 years, and their first in the championship since winning in Wales 2 years ago. The surprise defeat cranks up the heat on Townsend just 5 months after the Scots, widely deemed to have one of the best squads in their history, suffered a second consecutive World Cup group stage exit on the 50-year-old's watch. However, Jones claimed the player should carry the can for the debacle and appeared irritated by the suggestion that it would place the long-serving head coach under renewed scrutiny. Said the experienced centre, "I don't know about that. We're all behind the coaches. We're all behind Gregor. We love the way we play, the way we want to play. We have a good plan. When we execute it, it's brilliant and we play some good rugby. I don't think this defeat was on Gregor. I think it was on the players. We didn't execute our plan well enough, and Italy played well. Scotland looked in control after 3 tries in the opening half hour from Zander Fagerson, Kyle Steyn and Pierre Schumann, but a disallowed George Horn touchdown after a foul in the build-up by Schumann was detected 2 minutes into the second half, when they led 22-16, proved pivotal. Italy, who had scored in the first half through Martin Page-Rello, turned the screws with tries from debutant Louis Lenach and substitute Stephen Varney, and some excellent kicking under pressure from Paolo Garbisi took the game away from the Scots, before Sam Skinner's late try gave them a glimmer of what ultimately proved false hope. Saturday was one of Jones' most soul-destroying days in a Scotland jersey, and he said, "We hate losing. It's really tough to take, hugely disappointing. We spoke during the week before the game about having our best performance, having an 80-minute performance, but we were really poor in the second half. We let the game slip away from us. Credit to Italy, they were good. But we had that try chalked off and then conceded 4 or 5 penalties in a row. We could not get back in the game, and they managed that period better than us. Our discipline was not good enough. We did not react to that try swing well enough. We are gutted with our performance. Across the board, we managed it badly. The leadership and the processes and the communication was good. But we've all got to look at ourselves and the actions we took." While the manner of the defeat itself was bad enough, there was further reason for Scottish frustration later in the day, when Ireland's surprise defeat to England meant Townsend's men had effectively squandered a golden chance to set up a last-day title shootout with Ireland. Had they won in Rome, they would have been able to secure a first championship triumph since 1999 with victory in Dublin next weekend. Instead, although still with an unrealistic mathematical chance of the title, they head to the Irish capital, scrambling to avoid a demoralising 2-win bottom-half finish from a campaign that previously promised so much. Jones admitted it felt like Scotland had let a huge opportunity slip from their grasp, and he continued, "Yes, definitely, it is really disappointing. We wanted to get a win and then go to Dublin next week full of confidence and try to do something, but this obviously takes the wind out of the sails. We've got to react. We've got to react quickly and prepare for another game. We'll go through a range of emotions, but we've got to review it objectively and then turn our attention to Ireland." Evening Times Sport, March 11. Townsend still believes in Scotland. Report by Anthony Brown. Frustrated Gregor Townsend refused to entertain questions about his future after Scotland suffered a calamitous second-half collapse on their way to a costly 31-29 Guinness Six Nations defeat in Italy. The Scots arrived in Rome aiming to enhance their bid for a first top-2 finish in the championship this century, while they still held out some hope of winning the title. However, their loss in the Eternal City, allied to England's win over Ireland, leave them staring at the prospect of a bottom-half finish. Things looked to be going well for Townsend's team when they led 14-3 and 22-10 during the first half, following tries by props Zander Fagerson and Pierre Schumann and wing Kyle Steyn. A disallowed George Horn try early in the second half, following a foul by Schumann, proved pivotal. Italy, who had scored in the first half through Martin Page-Rello, turned the match in their favour with tries from debutant Louis Lenach and substitute Stephen Varney. and some excellent kicking under pressure from Paolo Garbisi took the game away from the Scots before Sam Skinner's late try gave them a glimmer of hope. Scotland, incredibly, still have an outside chance of finishing in the top two as they prepare to head to Ireland for their final match, but losing to Italy for the first time since 2015 represents a major setback for Townsend just 5 months after an underwhelming display at the World Cup brought pool stage elimination. When the head coach, who is contracted until 2026, was asked if he felt his job was under threat, after his side became the first to lose a Six Nations match in Rome since 2013, he said, "I'm not going to answer that question. We're disappointed with the result today, but we know this team have come on since the World Cup. We can look at this result and be really disappointed, but I have been really proud of how this team's played during the championship so far. I believe in this group. You can look at results and say, we've lost to Italy. This team are not going to take that next step. Or you can look at where we've grown since the World Cup. I still believe the performances the players are putting in can show we can beat anybody. But if we take our eye off the ball for a period of time, we can be beaten. That's what happened here." Townsend admitted Scotland were architects of their own downfall, although he did acknowledge a superb performance from Italy, who won their first championship match since their victory in Wales 2 years ago. And he said, "The credit has to go to Italy as well. There are two teams that play the game, not just one. I thought that Italy were very good even in the first half, where we dominated most of the possession. But our actions after the try that was disallowed were not good enough. We gave Italy a way into the game through penalties and field position. If you give that to any team in the Six Nations, they are going to take the points, which they did. It is very frustrating that we did not get that try, which is down to our execution, and after that it was even more frustration." Townsend admitted the result hurts a lot, but he remains steadfast in his belief that Scotland are continuing to make progress overall under his stewardship. And he pointed out, "We won in Wales for the first time since 2002. We retained the Calcutta Cup. We had a decision over what would have been a match-winning try go against us in the game with France. This result is very disappointing. We've lost against a good Italian side, one of the best Italian teams I've seen. But today is not what defines this team." Report by Anthony Brown.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels, @Q and Review, and to tell your friends about our service